In the previous video, we saw how to actually use certificates to connect to CDS on Azure Functions. So now in this part, in this video, we'll actually see how to use Azure Function as a part of custom connector. So there are a couple of ways to do it. So I'll show you the way I like, which uses the Azure API Management. So if you go into Platform Features, you see there is a link for API management. If you click on this link, you will navigate to API management. I already provisioned API management instance, so I will just have to link it up to the existing one. So it says create new link API. It already has picked up the API on the Azure Functions. So now I have to wait for this to link up. Create. So this is the screen you get after you after the API, the Azure function is actually linked to the API management. So the first step is actually to design the response. So if you click on retrieve entity and then click on this pencil icon, so I can design my responses. So it has already picked up the parameter on the query, the URL code name. So you can possibly put some description on it. But let me just jump straight into responses. So I just click add response, say 200 OK. In that scenario, add representation. So I just say application/JSON, and then definition. I can create a new definition. So the new definition is called meta. I'm just going to say metadata entity. And then here I can paste my sample. So I have my sample here so I'm just basically running the Azure functions on this other window. I can copy this sample, paste it in there, and it should generate the schema. So I can just save it now. Once I save it, so I have only one response design. That's just only for HTTP 200. So that is the response. So if I just save it, so now I have one response, and I can test the API now. So let me just see. So retrieve entity, I see account. I'm gonna send it. So now I got the response back for account. So this part is working now. So now we have created the API definition. Let's download a copy of the definition. Just in case you want to call the functions directly. So I'm going to save a copy of it. And now if we go into API management, now we need to create the keys so that we can create the custom connector for it. So the keys should be in subscriptions. That's where we actually create the keys. So I say new subscription. So say custom connector. Throw the space. Alright. Custom connector. So I'm going to give it access to only this specific API. So that specific API is the one that we just created. So I'm going to give it access to that specific API. So that part is done now. So we have created the keys and we need to copy the primary key. Just copy it to clipboard. Now we'll go and set up our custom connector. When we need to create the custom connector, there are a couple of ways to do it. You can actually do it right from API management services. So if you click API and you select the API that you just imported, and if you click this ellipsis icon, you can choose export. And then one of the option, I just figured this out only on Monday. that is today is Friday, so it's only 4 days. So I didn't realize that this was around. So this might be new for a lot of people, or if you know about it, even better. So it's this one is much better. So you can actually create a Power Apps custom connector from here. Initially, I was actually planning to show how to create a custom connector from Maker portal. Just directly link it up to Azure Functions. But this one is even better. So you can also do the same thing from here, create from Azure service. And if you actually choose your subscription, and if you choose, see, now I can see there is a note for API management, and then I can choose Azure API. So I can do it through here. I can do the exact same thing here as well. So, but this one is a lot easier, I think. But there is a small issue with that, but we can work around it. So if you click on the uh, Power Apps, then I'm just gonna choose the environment, the CDS environment that I'm going to publish this to, and then I'm gonna say retrieve metadata functions, and then export. Okay, now let's jump back into our Maker portal. That's make.powerapps.com. And if you navigate under data custom connectors, you can see that the new custom connector has been created. Now let's edit this. And you can change this to be something meaningful. And then I go to security. And this is where you have to use that key that you copied from the subscriptions area. So if you go into subscriptions, there was a key that was created for specifically for custom connector. You need to copy that primary key and paste it here. So let's go back here and then go to definitions. And here, what you need to do is you need to actually, so the issue is the response. If you go to the response, so the response, you need to actually you need to tell what the schema for the response is. Otherwise, you will just get like a successful response, but you won't get any content on it. So what we need to do is we need to just copy this raw data that you had copied from functions and paste it over again here. I'm just going to say import from sample. I'm going to say content hyphen type application dot JSON. Okay, and I'm going to import it. Once I import it, I just update the connector, and now we can test the connector. Okay, now when we create a connection, you are supposed to get this screen where it prompts for API key. So if you don't get this prompt, then you need to do something to kind of make it prompt. So the way I have been able to do it is I'll just go to general, and then I just go to security, and then I just click this edit, not make any changes at all, and then I go into definitions again, and then I just basically update the connector. I did this a couple of times just to force it to ask me for a key, but it needs to ask the key. Otherwise, your custom connector will not work. So let's go into new connection. Now it's asking me for the key. I'm going to paste the key that I created. And once I do that, it is going to create this key. I can just sort it by descending. So that's a brand new key. Jump back into custom connector. Okay, now we have the connection. Let's try to test it for an entity. I'm going to test it for contact, see whether I get any response. So I seem to have got a response. So I got the JSON. So this is good. So this means I can actually use the custom connector on the either on Power Apps or on Flow. Let's try to see how we can use this on a normal Canvas app. Okay, now I'm on a Canvas app. Let's see how we can use this custom connector on a Canvas app. So I click on data sources and I just search for my custom connector name, which is retrieve entity metadata functions. I'm going to search for it. Retrieve entity metadata functions. I can see it. It's a premium connector, so you can see it's premium. So we need to check the license for this. So once I do that, so I should be able to use. So let me just simply collect the response on a object. So clear collect, say entity response, and then I'm just going to say retrieve. So now I can see it's already said retrieve entity metadata function app, get retrieve entity, that's the operation. And then I need to put in an entity name here. I'm just going to hard code this to contact. So once I do that, it is going to run on start, and I will do one more thing to just to confirm that it's working properly. So I go into advanced tool. I'm going to open the monitor. So I'm going to allow pop-ups for that. I'm going to have the monitor open on this window. What this helps me is just to confirm that the request is going to be sent on the onStat, because I just want to be sure what is going to be sent and what is going to be received. So I can go into my forms, go into my tree view, and then I should be able to run the onStat. So if I go into app, this one is really handy. So I can just say run onStat. So once I do that, now it's executing the request. I can go into a monitor. I can see that this is being sent. So let's see the request. It's sending into the retrieve entity metadata functions. It's got a response. So yeah, it's all good. So everything is working. And by default, you actually see the response on a table. And what I found, this is quite nifty. So if you just go JSON tree, you can see the same response in JSON. So if you are actually connecting to an API, this is probably much more easier to visualize and confirm that everything's working compared to a table. So yeah, so this part is working. So now let's jump back into our Canvas app. I'm going to try to add a gallery, and I'm going to bind it to the response. So the response object was called, I believe it was called entity response. Okay, I'm going to bind it there. Straight away you see some response, so that is good. So I want to switch it to title and subtitle, and I can see the fields. So subtitle one is collection schema name, so I'm going to just change this to primary ID, primary name attribute. Yeah, so it's like, I can see all the fields from the custom connector. So you can actually use this on a Canvas app. It's not much used for a single entity, but yeah, like you can see, the concept is working. So I can bind it to the response of a custom connector on a Canvas app. So let's try to do this on Flow. Okay, now we are in Power Automate, and let's create a flow to actually use the custom connector. I have created a manually triggered flow with just one parameter, entity name. I'm going to get that from the user. Now let me go into my custom connector, to entity metadata function, and I have that only one. So I'm going to map the name to the user parameter. And now I can just probably add one more step just to sort of like send me an email mobile notification. Don't really need it, but just to have some additional step, I'm going to create that. Okay, in this mobile notification step, I'm going to put the maybe display name. What is the schema name? Schema. Sorry, collection schema name. Let me just put that. Maybe I'm just gonna save the flow. I'm going to run it. Let's test it. Perform the trigger actions. Save and test. And it's gonna ask me for the input. Continue. So I'm going to enter contact. So I run flow. So I can go into flow runs page. Okay, now let me click the test. See whether it was working. It worked properly. So now we can just expand this retrieve entity node. For me, it took a while to actually see data in this node because of probably all the different values. So it was a bit slow. Uh, but if you don't have this big JSON, so it might be all right. But let's now go back into the response and see whether the response actually was able to pick it up from the collection. Okay, so once again, I think when I scroll down, it took a fair while to actually render the values. So let's go into the mobile notification, see whether I can see the response. Yeah, as you can see, it's able to uh, correctly output the text as contacts. So you're saying like we can use the custom connector on your flow or on the Canvas app, and how easy it is actually to do that. And you can also, I think, like I said in the initial part, you can also go into a custom connector and use the create from Azure service. It's exactly same as far as I tested. Thank you for watching, and in the next video, what I want to do was just how to use managed identity in Azure Function to make the connection to Dynamics, because I think Maria Sagur is another MVP from Norway. He was saying that there is a way to do this using managed identity. So I just want to explore that part. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and hopefully this like a useful video for you. Thank you.